Today on Hearts of Heroes, a violent avalanche sweeps a hiker 1,000 feet down a steep mountain slope.
The only thing I could think to myself at this point was, this is how I'm gonna die.
It will take the heroic efforts of a helicopter rescue crew to airlift him to safety.
We flew a couple laps around the scene, and there was a deep V in the snow from where the avalanche had happened.
Plus, a young man has to put his life on the line to save his beloved family pet.
There was fire, smoke, the smoke detectors were going off. I heard the dog crying. It was wild.
With lives on the line, heroes have one goal: to help save you.
For the brave folks who patrol this nation's many mountain ranges, there's a whole slew of issues you can run into. Lost hikers, snowed-in backpackers, even people just stuck on the side of a cliff. But there's another level of emergency, and that is an avalanche rescue. That's when it takes a whole team, pilots, medics, and rangers to save the day.
Mount San Antonio, known to locals as Mount Baldy, is located just 50 miles from the city of Los Angeles. This Goliath peak reaches more than 10,000 feet above sea level. It's the highest mountain in the LA metropolitan area.
It's a pretty popular area for people who want to hike, to train, or just to climb a local mountain. So we get a lot of hikers and a lot of people that go up there throughout the winter and the summer.
The terrain can be rugged and challenging, but that's what first attracted fitness enthusiast Cody Ayala.
It's also my very first mountain peak that I've ever climbed. And since then, it's always had a special place in my heart, and I've been there plenty of times.
In January of 2017, Cody and two friends decided to hike the Baldy Bowl Trail, which leads to the summit of the mountain.
There was snow falling every single weekend, so that means there's a bunch of different layers on the mountains, and that could be very dangerous.
They're kind of set up for having a large amount of unstable snow on the face of Mount Baldy there.
It's important to remember, no matter how experienced an outdoorsman you are, you should never underestimate the power of Mother Nature. Always be aware and always be prepared.
Rangers and first responders were keeping a close eye on the mountain.
I noticed that we had avalanche conditions, and there had been several small little avalanches in that bowl the day before this incident happened.
An avalanche, also called a snowslide, occurs when a slab of snow lying on a weaker layer of snow fractures and slides down the steep slope. They can be particularly severe in areas where there are few trees and boulders to slow the rushing wall of snow. As Cody and his friends began to make the trek, he noticed an ominous sign.
Saw a little snowball come down the slope as we were hiking up to get to the bowl, and that right there just caught my attention. Like, I don't like how that looks. But I thought it was just fear starting to creep up in me, and I'm gonna ignore that. I'm not gonna acknowledge that.
For most of the morning, the hike went as planned.
And as we were going up, we noticed a change in the conditions. We stepped, and then snow started to just come towards us. Almost felt like it's trying to wipe us out, our feet from underneath us. And right away, I knew what was happening. I knew it was an avalanche. And you only have like about a second or so to react.
Cody tried desperately to secure himself in place with a pickaxe, but the sheer force of the avalanche was too strong, and he was swept up in the snowslide.
So I'm falling down the mountain, and it's like a tumbleweed, just going so quickly. And I'm trying to throw arms out, legs out, just so I could fall in a different direction.
Cody hurtled 1,000 feet down the mountain and then slammed into a boulder.
I felt just a huge impact to my right side, and that's when everything went black. I felt snow going in my mouth. Everything was dark. The only thing I could think to myself at this point was, this is how I'm gonna die.
Cody's friends had not been swept up in the avalanche, so they rushed down the mountainside to help their injured friend.
I heard them yelling out my name, Cody, Cody, and then they eventually saw me on the ground, and when I heard their voice, my eyes opened, and I looked up, and I just could not believe that I was still alive.
Cody was terribly injured. He just didn't know how bad it was.
I had a hard time breathing, and I could not get up. That's when I knew something was going on with my body.
There was no way that Cody could have made it down the mountain. They needed help fast. Luckily, Cody had a GPS device in his pack.
First thing they did was go in my pack, hit the SOS button, sends my coordinates to the search and rescue, and they're able to locate us and come to our rescue.
Despite the fact that they had hiked this mountain numerous times, they made sure to have all the equipment they needed in case of any emergency, and it may well have saved Cody's life.
With the distress signal sent out, all Cody and his friends could do was wait and hope that the rescue team got there in time.
My back was starting to get really cold too, and I was getting slight, like, shivers. And I just kept telling myself, just have faith, have trust.
Coming up, the rescue team has to attempt a dangerous airlift.
We were experiencing some downdraft, and I wasn't able to hover right over the victims.
Then, heroes rush in to save a furry friend.
I couldn't see anything. It was fire, smoke. The smoke detectors were going off. I heard the dog crying. It was wild.
But first, a safety tip.
Winter weather can be extremely unpredictable, but some of the dangers it poses can actually be avoidable.
Say, for instance, you're headed out to a beautiful snow-covered mountain for a hike. Having specialized training can help you know the signs of what to look for so you can carry the proper gear to protect yourself from disaster and injury.
We all want to have a good time, but be safe and know what to do before disaster takes you by surprise.
In January of 2017, Cody Ayala and two friends were traversing the summit of Mount Baldy when disaster struck. The side of the snowy mountain gave way, sending Cody sliding 1,000 feet in a roaring avalanche. Injured and unable to move, Cody needed help desperately. His friends sent out a frantic SOS message on their GPS system.
As we're approaching in the helicopter, we saw there was a deep V in the snow from where the avalanche had happened and where it had broke loose.
But the extreme elevation and harsh weather posed a big problem.
Unfortunately, we couldn't put Spencer right at the scene. We were experiencing some downdrafts, which was limiting my power, and I wasn't able to hover right over the victims.
The sheer weight of the helicopter and crew made it impossible to get to the hikers.
The higher you fly, the hotter it is, and the heavier you are, the more difficult it is to maintain that altitude.
To lighten the load, they dropped off medic Spencer Brumbaugh before ascending to the scene.
So I got lowered down approximately 150, 200 feet below them and started hiking up.
Consequently, that offload of weight allowed us to insert me right at the victims almost simultaneously to when Spencer got there.
They could see how badly injured Cody was and needed to get him off the mountain before that unstable snow gave way again.
So we loaded Cody into the basket. We called for the helicopter. They came overhead and dropped the hook to us, and we loaded and hoisted him up.
But the conditions made it impossible for the medics to accompany Cody in the basket. They had no choice but to send him up alone.
I just took a deep breath and I said, you know what? I'm good. Like, I'm gonna just enjoy this view and just really be so grateful that I'm still here, I'm still breathing.
Cody was transferred to an ambulance and rushed to the hospital. Miraculously, Cody only suffered some broken ribs and a collapsed lung, but the recovery would not be easy.
So the recovery process was definitely a tough one to endure, but I didn't feel sorry for myself. Thinking about what I can't do, I started thinking about what could I do? I could walk, so I'm like, I'm gonna walk up steps. That allowed me to make a faster recovery.
And through sheer courage and determination, Cody ran the LA Marathon.
Wasn't my fastest time, but I'm just grateful for every step along the way.
Recently, Cody had the opportunity to reunite with the crew who pulled him off the mountain that fateful day.
You look like you've recovered really well. Have you been hiking or have you gone up there again since that?
What's the next mountain you're going to?
So the next mountain, well, I'm actually going to the Army, so that's my mountain right there.
Congratulations.
Thank you. I want to be able to someday do the same thing you guys do and go rescue people.
Well, after all your experiences on this mountain, you're going to go there and you're going to be well-versed in the stuff they're going to teach you.
You know, if you didn't have people that were willing to put their life on the line to save another person, then, you know, a lot of us wouldn't be here today. But because we have people like that, like, I'm here today to share the story with you. So, yeah, again, I'm super grateful.
Like the sergeant said, you look good.
Thank you.
And you look like you've recovered very well.
Yes.
So it's good to see you.
Yeah, we're definitely happy to
Yeah,
see you doing so well.
Yeah, thank you guys. Appreciate it.
Coming up, when a beloved pet is trapped in a raging house fire, her owner must make a life or death decision.
There was fire, smoke. I heard the dog crying for help. I just had to get out and go in there and get her.
If you talk to anyone who's been the victim of a house fire, they can tell you it is one of the most traumatic experiences in life. You can lose almost everything. Family photos, family heirlooms, and that sticks with you for a long time. But there are also always caring heroes who are going to step in and help out when tragedy hits.
Burlington, New Jersey is a suburb just outside of Philadelphia. With a population of just 9,000 people, this is a small town steeped in rich history.
I grew up in Burlington, New Jersey. It is a very small town. It's a historic area. We lived in the area where you could walk downtown to restaurants and shops.
In Burlington, the fire department is made up almost entirely of volunteers. It's no wonder that these selfless heroes enjoy the respect of the entire city.
The fire department and community have a very good relationship. We do a lot of community events, parades, any of the community organizations. We're out there and we're involved with them.
But of course, their first priority is to protect the citizens from fires and other potential emergencies. And in October of 2018, they would be called into service when a devastating inferno broke out, jeopardizing one family's entire home. But on that day, a house fire was the last thing on John Hilger's mind.
That day was just a normal, plain day for me. I woke up, normal time. I didn't have school, I didn't have work or anything that day. So I was just up relaxing.
With nothing pressing on his agenda, John and a friend made a quick stop into town. But when they returned 45 minutes later, John's entire life changed.
I saw some smoke, and then we turned around the corner, and the house was already on fire.
Fires can break out in the blink of an eye, and unlike some other disasters, there may be no warning. So firefighters and first responders have a number of recommendations to make sure you are prepared if you should ever find yourself in this dangerous situation.
Have a home escape plan. Make sure you have working smoke detectors, a fire extinguisher in the area of your kitchen just in case you do need it.
When John saw his house in flames, he had a terrifying realization. Their family dog, Eva, was inside. She could be heard howling in fright.
After I heard that, I just had to get out and go in there and get her.
With no time to call 911, he made a life or death decision.
So I got out of the car and immediately tried to go to the front door and open the door, but the fire was building up pressure in the room, so I literally couldn't open the door.
Going around to a side door, John managed to bust in.
And when I walked in, it was just a different atmosphere completely. I couldn't see anything. It was fire, smoke. The smoke detectors were going off. I heard the dog crying. It was wild.
The heavy smoke and flames made it almost impossible for John to see where the dog was. His guide was to follow the sound of her bark.
I didn't see the dog until I was probably a foot next to her.
With no time to spare, he found Eva cowering on the couch, but the flames were growing stronger.
She was terrified. She was frozen, so I had to pick her up. I carried her probably like 15 feet maybe, and then she jumped out of my arms and ran out of the house.
Fortunately, John and Eva made it out safely. Next, John made a frantic call to 911.
When the fire was dispatched, I was at home. I could see the smoke in the air from my residence. I came from my house and responded to the call.
It just goes to show you the dedication of these amazing firemen and women. They will drop everything to come to the rescue of those in need.
When Brent Tomer and his crew arrived, the situation was dire.
There was fire out of every window in the front door.
With the house in flames, John called his stepdad, Bob Schoonover.
I kind of flew out of my office very quick.
Meanwhile, John's mom, Rosalie, received an ominous phone call.
My neighbor called and said, there's an emergency at the house, nobody's hurt, but you need to come home.
When Rosalie and her husband Bob arrived, they were suddenly thrown into the middle of a nightmare.
I didn't realize the severity of it until I actually saw all the people and saw all the fire departments and all the police, and then realized that, hey, my house is burning down.
Coming up, the Schoonovers faced the aftermath of the terrifying house fire.
All your memories are sitting in that house, and it's all just going up in flames.
But first, another safety tip.
Installing smoke alarms in your residence is essential in protecting you and your loved ones from a fire. But there's more to an alarm than just the installation.
It's important to test your smoke alarms once a month and to change the batteries at least twice a year. This will ensure your protective devices will be able to do its job and warn you of danger.
Disaster can strike at any time. So be prepared to the best of your abilities. Shoulda, woulda, coulda are cliches no one wants to hear in reference to you or your family's safety.
On the afternoon of October 25th, 2018, John Hilger arrived to find his house on fire. He managed to save his dog, but by the time his mom and stepdad arrived from work, the house was consumed in flames.
It's hard to describe the thoughts, you know, because you're not sure of the future at that point. And everything that you've had and everything you own and all your memories are sitting in that house and it's all just going up in flames.
But the Burlington Fire Department was doing everything they could.
There was a door on the side of the house. We were able to get in through the kitchen and start attacking the fire. Then we went to what's called master streams, which would be ladder trucks and deck guns.
Once the flames were doused, the Schoonover family learned the cause of the fire.
They said it was electrical in our formal living room. The house was over 100 years old, so they said anything could have rattled the wires.
But now the question was, how much damage was done? Kevin Stokely from our sponsor Balfour Property Restoration was immediately called in, but the news was not good.
It was deemed that the property needed to be bulldozed, and the homeowners were very upset that they were going to lose their personal possessions. The request was made, is there any chance somebody can go in there and try to retrieve some things before the property was demoed?
With only 24 hours before the house would be leveled and everything lost, Balfour sent in Trevor Hayden.
When you've lost everything in that moment, just having something is all that's needed at that point. So that's what we tried to provide. It's what I tried to provide.
The clock was ticking, and if anything was going to be salvaged from the home, they had to act quickly.
With the construction background that we carried, I knew that I could safely go in the structure and understand where to go and where not to go.
Trevor enlisted the help of the Schoonover's son, John, to help take pictures and be a guide to locating family heirlooms.
I was just taking my pictures, my videos, and he was helping a lot, actually. He was making us seem like it wasn't as bad as it was.
There wasn't much left, but Trevor and John did manage to save some photo albums, as well as some precious family mementos from Rosalie's parents.
I had one piece of antique jewelry that was my grandmother's that I displayed on my dresser. He also went in the dressers and got anything that seemed sentimental. One of the things that I would not even remembered I had was a box from my dad who had passed away. Months afterwards, when I was still trying to write letters to all the people that helped us, the person I really wanted to thank was Trevor, because he was the first one to help us. He was there. He brought calm to our lives.
And to thank you for just my recovery of some sentimental items that they held so dear to them. I couldn't believe I got this. Thank yous don't come often, but I know that they're out there. So this is just refreshing to be reminded that what we do makes a difference.
Rosalie and her entire family recently had the opportunity to thank Trevor personally.
I think everybody should appreciate you and everyone at your company, but you came up, you sort of took us out of the chaos and let us know everything was going to be okay, and we're forever grateful for that. I don't even know if I told you in the letter, there were two things in particular that you went out of your way to find. And weeks later, I came across this box, which you had retrieved from our room. And it had my mother's hanky, I think from her wedding. My dad had their wedding announcement and his actual wedding ring. And a few other things, like a necklace, a bracelet my mother had given him when he was in Korea. I would have never in a million years remember I had this stuff, so. Thank you.
When you're in the heart of a natural disaster, it can be really hard to remember that it will end, that you will make it through. Thankfully, we've got first responders who have the experience in this and can remind us of all of that. Thank you so much for watching. I'm Ginger Zee. Hope to see you next time.